If you're over 60, imagine this. One sweet, juicy habit you embrace every day could be silently, insidiously raising your risk of a stroke. It could happen overnight without a whisper of warning, no symptoms, no pain. You drift off to sleep feeling completely normal, and then, by morning, your words are tangled, your balance is gone, or one entire side of your body simply won't respond. As a brain doctor, I've witnessed this heartbreak far too many times. Older adults suffering strokes they never saw coming. And here's the most alarming part. It wasn't from smoking or fast food or a sedentary lifestyle. It was from something they genuinely believed was healthy. Fruit. Yes, fruit. Millions of seniors routinely eat fruit, convinced it's doing wonders for their heart, brain, and digestion. And while it's true that many fruits absolutely support healthy aging, some, particularly when consumed at the wrong time or in excessive amounts, can quietly turn into a danger. They can send your blood sugar soaring, dehydrate your brain without you realizing it, or interact dangerously with your medications. The scariest thing? No one is talking about this. No one is warning you. Today, I am going to walk you through 9 common fruits that might be escalating your risk of stroke, memory loss, or even a brain bleed, especially if you are over 60. Have you ever considered that your well-intentioned healthy habits might actually be backfiring? If so, you absolutely need to hear this, and I truly believe it could save your life. Before we dive deep, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon so you never miss another vital health tip crafted just for you. If you find this information valuable, please type 1 in the comments below. If not, type 0 and let me know how I can make this content better for you. Let's begin with number 1, bananas. Too much potassium, too fast. As a brain doctor, I've seen my share of unexpected strokes, but few things are as unsettling as the innocent daily habits that silently pave the way for disaster. And believe it or not, bananas are one of those hidden dangers. You've been told your whole life that bananas are the perfect snack. Soft, easy to digest, loaded with potassium, even labeled heart-healthy. And for someone in their 30s or 40s, that's often true. But once you cross the 60-year mark, everything shifts. Your kidneys, blood vessels, and heart start handling sudden shifts in minerals like potassium very differently. Let me explain clearly. As we age, our kidneys naturally slow down. They become less efficient at filtering, especially if you're already managing high blood pressure, diabetes, or taking common medications like ACE inhibitors or diuretics, often called water pills. This means that the potassium, which bananas are packed with, can start to build up in your bloodstream. When that happens, your heart can begin to misfire. Your blood vessels tighten. And perhaps worst of all, blood clots can form where blood should be flowing freely. In the brain, a clot like that can shut everything down in mere seconds. I'll never forget Mr. Raymond, a 66-year-old retired carpenter from Ohio. He was active, sharp-minded, and took immense pride in his healthy eating. Every morning, he'd meticulously slice a banana over his oatmeal and wash down his blood pressure medication with orange juice. It was a routine he'd followed for over a year. But one morning, his wife found him collapsed in the bathroom. His left side was limp, his speech slurred. At the hospital, scans revealed a small but devastating stroke. His blood potassium levels were dangerously high, disrupting his heart rhythm and triggering clot formation overnight. He had no idea that just 2 simple bananas a day, in combination with his medication, were pushing his body into treacherous territory. Here's the critical piece of information most seniors are never told. You don't need that much potassium, not from supplements, not from multiple servings of fruit, and certainly not all at once. Just one large banana can contain over 450 milligrams of potassium. That's enough to throw off your body's delicate balance if your kidneys aren't at peak performance. If you eat that banana at night, when your circulation naturally slows, your hydration dips, and your medication is still actively circulating, it creates a perfect storm: stiff arteries, sticky blood, and a clot that may never give you a second chance. So, what's the actionable advice if you're over 60, especially if you take heart or blood pressure medications? Limit yourself to half a banana per day, eaten in the morning, and always with a protein like Greek yogurt or nuts to slow its absorption. Skip banana smoothies, banana bread, and absolutely avoid eating them before bed. Most importantly, have a conversation with your doctor about how potassium-rich foods interact with your specific prescriptions. Your life may very well depend on it. Because the truth is, what was once healthy for your body may no longer be safe, not without understanding the full picture. If bananas shocked you, wait until you hear what grapes, yes, those tiny, sweet grapes, are doing to your blood sugar, your brain vessels, and your risk of silent inflammation. What I am about to share in the next section will likely change the way you snack forever. If you're still with me and finding these insights helpful, please type 1 in the comments below to let me know. Now, let's move on to point number 2. Number 2, grapes. A sugar bomb in a tiny package. Grapes. Sweet, juicy, refreshing. A snack that feels as innocent as a gentle breeze on a spring day. They're a fixture on fruit platters, in cereal bowls, or served after Sunday lunch with the grandkids. But what if I told you that for someone over 60, particularly those with underlying vascular issues or unstable blood sugar, grapes can be a silent trigger for stroke? It's easy to overlook that grapes are essentially concentrated sugar wrapped in delicate skin. Each small grape may seem harmless, but eating just a handful, especially the seedless, extra-sweet varieties so prevalent in our grocery stores, can unleash a surge of natural glucose and fructose directly into your bloodstream. And for aging brains and blood vessels, that sudden spike carries a heavy cost. As we age, our bodies become less efficient at managing blood sugar. Our insulin response slows. Our blood vessels become more fragile. When sugar levels spike rapidly, it doesn't just stress your pancreas. It ignites inflammation within the delicate walls of your arteries, including the vital ones that supply your brain. When those arteries become inflamed, they begin to stiffen and narrow. Over time, the vessel lining can suffer microscopic tears, and it's there that blood clots begin to form. You might not feel it, you might not see it on a routine checkup, but your body is quietly building the perfect conditions for a silent stroke. Let me tell you about Mrs. Jeanette Morris, an 80-year-old retired school teacher from Missouri. She prided herself on living naturally. No soda, no processed food, always fresh fruits. Her favorite mid-morning snack was a generous bowl of red grapes. She'd munch on them while reading the paper or watching the news, sometimes going through nearly 2 cups without a second thought. Then one day, her vision blurred while she was writing a birthday card. Moments later, her hand trembled, and she couldn't recall the word, "congratulations." Her daughter rushed her to the hospital, fearing a stroke. And that's precisely what it was. A transient ischemic attack, often called a mini-stroke, caused by a clot that briefly blocked blood flow to the left side of her brain. Her lab results showed sharp sugar spikes around midday, and her A1C, a long-term blood sugar marker, had crept into the pre-diabetic range, something she never suspected. Even more telling was the chronic low-grade inflammation in her vascular system, likely exacerbated by years of high-sugar fruit intake without protein or fiber to balance it. Here it's what I want you to truly grasp. Even healthy foods can become dangerous without context. When you're over 60, the timing of what you eat and what you eat it with becomes just as crucial as the food itself. Grapes digest rapidly. They send sugar surging through your veins. If you eat them alone, especially while dehydrated or under stress, your body enters a state where blood thickens, vessels constrict, and clotting becomes more likely. You won't notice it that day, but night after night, week after week, it builds up until the day it breaks. That's why I now advise my older patients. Never eat grapes on an empty stomach. Never by the bowlful. Pair them with protein, a few almonds, a slice of cheese, and always limit your portion to a small handful, preferably during active hours of the day when your body can metabolize the sugar. If you're diabetic or on blood pressure medication, consider skipping them entirely unless your doctor advises otherwise. Because what appears to be a harmless snack can, over time, quietly rob you of your balance, your memory, and even your independence. And speaking of sweet and dangerous, there's a tropical fruit many seniors adore that does more than just spike your sugar. Its acid, its enzymes, and its nighttime effects on the brain might truly surprise you. Let's discuss pineapple and why your favorite dessert could be harming your brain while you sleep. Number 3. Pineapple, an acid and sugar combo. There's something about pineapple that feels like sunshine in every bite. Sweet, tangy, undeniably tropical. Many of my older patients enjoy it as a guilt-free treat after dinner, believing it's light, natural, and packed with digestionating enzymes. But what most seniors don't realize, and what deeply concerns me as a neurologist, is how this fruit, when eaten at the wrong time or under the wrong conditions, can become a silent risk factor for stroke, particularly overnight. Pineapple contains bromelain, a natural enzyme that can break down proteins in your body. In small amounts, bromelain might aid digestion, but in excess, especially when combined with certain medications, it can interfere with blood clotting, reduce platelet function, and lead to unpredictable bleeding or clot formation. For someone over 60, with naturally thinner blood vessels and a slower metabolism, that imbalance can have serious consequences. And let's not forget the sugar. A single cup of pineapple contains over 16 grams of natural sugar, which causes a rapid spike in blood glucose. Unlike berries or apples, pineapple has a high glycemic index, meaning it floods the bloodstream with sugar quickly. When consumed late in the day, that sugar spike isn't utilized for energy. It simply circulates, stressing your blood vessels while you sleep. But the most overlooked threat of all is its acidity. Pineapple is one of the most acidic fruits in the American diet. It can irritate the esophagus, trigger silent reflux, and in some seniors, this reflux occurs without the typical burning pain. Instead, it causes microaspiration and nighttime airway pressure changes, both of which have been linked to reduced oxygen to the brain during sleep and an increased risk of early morning strokes, often the deadliest kind. I once treated Mrs. Clara Hughes, 77, a retired choir director from North Carolina. She was active, sharp, and deeply committed to eating cleanly. She avoided processed sweets and replaced her usual desserts with a few slices of fresh pineapple after dinner. For over a year, this became her nightly ritual. Then one morning, she woke up feeling foggy, disoriented. Her daughter noticed she was slurring her words and couldn't maintain her balance while walking. A CT scan revealed she had suffered a small posterior circulation stroke, one that affected her balance and speech. Her blood work showed elevated glucose levels, signs of nighttime reflux irritation, and platelet irregularities. The culprit was not a single cause, but a perfect storm created by her nightly pineapple habit, acid reflux, sugar spikes, and bromelain's effect on blood clotting. It was a fruit she believed was helping her, yet it nearly stole her independence. Clara's case is far from isolated. For seniors, digestion slows, vessel walls thin, and sleep becomes more fragile. Combine that with an acidic, high-sugar fruit at night, and you risk blood vessels constricting during rest, the exact moment when the brain is most vulnerable. And yes, under the right circumstances, it silently forms blood clots, setting the stage for a stroke while you're asleep. So, what's the takeaway? If you love pineapple, enjoy it earlier in the day in small amounts and never on an empty stomach. Avoid pairing it with blood-thinning medications unless your doctor advises otherwise. And most importantly, do not eat it before bed. Your brain needs stability, not surprises, while you sleep. Because at this stage in life, even a fruit can tip the balance. But if pineapple surprised you, wait until we discuss watermelon, a fruit praised for hydration, yet under certain conditions, it might be silently dehydrating your brain and lowering your blood pressure in ways that can leave you vulnerable to collapse. Let's explore how something so watery can become so dangerous. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please drop a 1 in the comments below to let me know you're engaged. Now let's continue with point number 4. Number 4, watermelon. Not always hydrating. It's tough to find a fruit more beloved during American summers than watermelon. Chilled slices on the 4th of July, seed-spitting contests with grandkids, and that sweet, refreshing crunch after a hot afternoon in the garden. It feels utterly harmless, even incredibly healthy. And yes, it is packed with water. But for seniors, especially those with underlying cardiovascular issues or on certain medications, watermelon can quietly push the body into danger, not through sugar or acid, but through what it subtly takes away from your system. As a brain doctor, I've grown increasingly concerned about how often older adults unknowingly trigger their own stroke risks with foods they assume are safe. Watermelon is one of the biggest misconceptions. It may seem hydrating, but in reality, watermelon acts as a diuretic, meaning it makes you urinate more frequently. That's no big deal for a 25-year-old, but for a 75-year-old with delicate circulation, borderline blood pressure, or who is already taking water pills or ACE inhibitors, that frequent urination can lead to overnight dehydration, one of the most dangerous silent triggers for stroke. Why? Because when your body becomes dehydrated, your blood thickens. Think of it like syrup slowly pouring through narrow tubes. Thick blood moves sluggishly, giving it more time to form clots, especially in arteries already stiffened by age. The brain, inherently sensitive to oxygen changes, becomes even more vulnerable when blood flow slows or gets interrupted. And this is particularly true during the night when the body's natural circulation dips and blood pressure drops. Let me tell you about Mr. Howard Larkin, an 82-year-old retired postal worker from Indiana. He was doing everything he thought was right, walking daily, avoiding processed sugar, and snacking only on healthy foods. One habit he had grown fond of was eating 2 or 3 large slices of watermelon after dinner, something to cool him down and keep him hydrated. But what he didn't realize was that he was also on a diuretic prescribed for mild heart failure. Between the medication and the natural water-pulling effect of the watermelon, Howard's body was shedding far too much fluid overnight. One morning, Howard woke up with severe vertigo. When he tried to stand, he collapsed. At the hospital, his blood pressure was dangerously low, and his blood work showed signs of concentrated hemoglobin, a marker that his blood had thickened due to dehydration. Scans revealed a small ischemic stroke, likely caused by a clot forming in his narrowed arteries while he slept. His watermelons, it turns out, were doing the exact opposite of what he thought, drying him out, not hydrating him. What's worse is that the stroke affected Howard's sense of balance and coordination. Though he survived, he now walks with a cane and relies on assistance with daily tasks, a man who just a week earlier had been mowing his own lawn. I don't share this story to scare you unnecessarily. I share it because most seniors do not realize that even healthy foods can become dangerous when they interact with age, medication, and timing. Watermelon eaten late in the day, especially after medications that already lower fluid volume, creates a hidden risk. Thick blood, low pressure, slowed circulation, the 3 conditions that allow clots to form quietly and strike overnight. So, if you enjoy watermelon, please enjoy it wisely. Eat it earlier in the day and always pair it with electrolytes, such as a pinch of salt or coconut water. If you're on diuretics, talk to your doctor before making it a daily habit. And most importantly, listen to your body. Dizziness in the morning, a dry mouth overnight, or waking up confused are not normal. They are whispers of warning, because even a fruit that's 90% water can become a silent thief of brain health. And the worst part, you won't feel it until it's too late. Now, if this surprised you, wait until we discuss a fruit that's practically marketed as the face of healthy breakfast, the classic American orange. But inside that bright color lies a hidden chemical that could be interfering with your heart and brain medications, and maybe setting the stage for something far more dangerous than most people imagine. Number 5. Oranges. Citrus interactions. Oranges have long been a symbol of health in American households. A glass of fresh squeezed juice with breakfast, a bowl of orange slices on the kitchen table, or the classic orange in a Christmas stocking. For decades, they've been seen as nature's vitamin C miracle. But for older adults, especially those on heart or blood pressure medications, oranges can quietly become a chemical cocktail that triggers dangerous chain reactions inside the body, including the kind that leads to blood clots and strokes. The problem isn't just the sugar, although one large orange or a glass of juice can send blood glucose levels spiking. It's also a natural compound inside citrus fruits called furanocoumarin, and it's something most seniors have never heard of. Furanocoumarin can interfere with how your body metabolizes certain medications, particularly statins, calcium channel blockers, and blood thinners. What this means is that instead of your body processing your medication safely and gradually, it may either hold on to too much, raising toxicity, or flush it out too quickly, rendering it useless. That interaction can be deadly, not immediately, but slowly, silently, by creating conditions where blood becomes unstable, arteries constrict unpredictably, or clots begin to form without warning. As a brain doctor, I've seen too many patients pay the price for mixing healthy fruit with powerful medications. One such patient was Mr. Elmer Bryant, 79, a retired bus driver from Georgia. A good man with a kind smile, Elmer had been taking atorvastatin for high cholesterol and amlodipine for blood pressure. He also prided himself on living naturally. Every morning, he'd start his day with a tall glass of freshly squeezed orange juice, his sunshine in a glass, as he called it. But what Elmer didn't know was that the furanocoumarin in that juice was preventing his liver from breaking down his medications. His blood pressure medication was building up in his bloodstream, intensifying its effects. At the same time, the statin was accumulating in his muscles and bloodstream, increasing inflammation and affecting his blood vessels. One morning, after feeling slightly dizzy for several days, Elmer stood up from his recliner and collapsed. He was rushed to the ER with slurred speech and confusion. A CT scan revealed a mild ischemic stroke, and blood tests showed dangerously elevated drug levels, not because he took too much medication, but because the orange juice blocked his liver from clearing it. His blood had become unstable. It was circulating unpredictably, and yes, it formed a clot that lodged itself in a narrow artery in his brain. When I explained this to Elmer and his wife, they were stunned. "All my life I thought orange juice was good for me," he said. And it was, once. But the aging body is not the same. What worked at 40 does not always work at 70 or 80, especially with prescription medications now in the picture. This is why grapefruit, Seville oranges, and even regular navel oranges, when consumed regularly, must be carefully considered in older adults taking medications. The liver becomes slower, less efficient, and the risks of drug-food interactions rise significantly with age. For those over 60, I now recommend eating oranges sparingly and never combining them with medications without speaking to a physician. If you enjoy citrus, choose lower-risk options like clementines or squeeze just a small splash of juice into water rather than drinking full glasses. And if you're on any prescription drugs, ask your doctor whether citrus could be interfering, because the truth is, it's not just what's in your medicine cabinet that matters, it's what's in your fruit bowl. One simple, well-meaning habit repeated daily can be the hidden hand that pushes your brain toward catastrophe. If this worries you, it should, but knowledge is power. By simply changing how and when you consume certain fruits, you can drastically reduce your risk. And if you think oranges are the only everyday fruit with a dark side, you'll want to stick around, because the next one is a fruit often handed to you in hospitals, praised for gut health and energy, but which may be quietly stripping your nerves of their protective coating. Let's talk about apples and the sugar trap no one's warning you about. Number 6, apples, a surprise sugar trap. Apples, the very symbol of American health, right? An apple a day keeps the doctor away. You've heard it your whole life. Crisp, juicy, and easy to eat, apples are frequently handed out in hospitals, included in senior lunch programs, and packed lovingly by grandkids who just want you to stay healthy. But for older adults, especially those over 60 managing blood pressure, diabetes, or cognitive changes, apples may not be as harmless as they appear. In fact, the wrong kind of apple, eaten the wrong way, can quietly raise your risk of stroke by disturbing your blood sugar and vascular stability in dangerous ways. You see, not all apples are created equal. While apples do contain fiber and some nutrients, many of the most popular American varieties, like Fuji, Honeycrisp, and Gala, are specifically bred for sweetness, not nutrition. These apples have a high glycemic load, which means they flood your bloodstream with natural sugars faster than your aging system can handle. If you eat them alone, especially without protein or healthy fat to slow digestion, you trigger a rapid blood sugar spike followed by a crash. This sudden surge and drop affects more than just your energy. It impacts your blood pressure, vascular inflammation, and blood viscosity. When your blood sugar spikes, your blood becomes more acidic and sticky. Your insulin levels surge and your blood vessels tighten. Over time, this pattern, repeated day after day, damages the delicate lining of your arteries, including those that lead to your brain. Microtears can develop, and when that happens, your body forms blood clots to repair the damage. In younger adults, the system recovers quickly. But for older adults whose vessels are already narrower and stiffer, those clots can become stroke triggers, waiting for the wrong moment. One of my patients, Mrs. Louise Hammond, 81, from Pennsylvania, had been healthy most of her life. She walked daily, took her medications as prescribed, and followed what she believed was a smart diet. Every afternoon, she had a large Honeycrisp apple as a snack. No chips, no cookies, just fruit. But what she didn't realize was that she was also insulin resistant, and those daily sugar surges were overwhelming her aging blood vessels. Over time, she began to notice her vision blurring slightly in the evenings and occasional pressure in her head when she stood up. One evening, while preparing dinner, Louise lost her ability to speak clearly. Her daughter rushed her to the ER, where imaging confirmed a minor stroke. Her labs showed unstable blood glucose patterns and signs of endothelial inflammation. While her medications were doing their job, her blood sugar spikes were quietly setting her up for vascular damage. And yes, a clot had formed, most likely during one of those sudden sugar peaks. Louise recovered, but she now sees apples differently, not as the enemy, but as something to treat with awareness and balance. Here's what I tell all my senior patients. If you love apples, choose wisely. Granny Smith apples are lower in sugar and higher in polyphenols, compounds that protect the brain. Always eat apples with a source of protein or fat, like almond butter or a slice of cheese, to reduce the glycemic impact. And never eat a sweet apple on an empty stomach, especially in the evening. Your brain needs stable fuel, not roller coasters. Because even something as wholesome as an apple can, beneath the surface, be stirring up the conditions that make a stroke more likely, especially when your blood sugar swings, your vessels tighten, and clots begin to form quietly, silently, until one day they don't stay silent anymore. If that surprised you, you'll want to keep reading, because next is a fruit that many seniors love for heart health, rich in color, antioxidant-packed, and often labeled a superfood. But hidden inside those ruby red skins is a compound that can thin your blood too much. And for those already on medications, that could mean the difference between safety and a brain bleed. Let's talk about cherries and why too many can tip your body into danger. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please type 1 in the comments below to let me know you're with me. Now, let's move on to point number 7. Number 7, cherries. A hidden source of salicylates. Cherries, small, beautiful, and bursting with color, have earned a reputation as one of the healthiest fruits in the American diet. Doctors often recommend them for inflammation, arthritis, even heart health. You'll find them in senior wellness magazines, organic food markets, and added to everything from yogurt to salads. But beneath their sweet taste and glowing reputation, cherries carry a little-known risk, especially for older adults who are already on blood thinners or medications that affect clotting. The danger lies in a natural compound found in cherries called salicylates, a blood-thinning substance that works similarly to aspirin. While this can be helpful in moderation, for seniors whose blood is already thinned by medications like warfarin, Plavix, or even daily aspirin, adding more salicylates from food can push the body over the edge. The result: blood that becomes too thin to clot, fragile vessels that leak, and in the worst cases, hemorrhagic stroke, bleeding inside the brain. Most people never connect this to fruit. It sounds far-fetched, but I've seen it firsthand. Let me tell you about Mr. Daniel Rhodes, 84, a retired train conductor from Illinois. He'd had a mild heart attack years ago and was placed on a daily low-dose aspirin. He also took a statin and a blood pressure medication. Every night, he ended his dinner with a small bowl of cherries, nature's dessert, he'd call them. He'd read they were good for inflammation and wanted to stay active for his great-grandkids. At first, there were no signs of danger, but after several weeks, Daniel started experiencing headaches, dizziness, and occasional nausea. One morning, he woke up confused and vomiting. His wife rushed him to the ER. A CT scan revealed something terrifying: a brain bleed, a hemorrhagic stroke, not from high blood pressure, not from trauma, but because his blood had become too thin to clot, and a small vessel in his brain had ruptured. The doctors ruled out medication errors. His dosage was correct, his vitals stable. But upon reviewing his diet, it became clear. The compounded effect of salicylates from cherries on top of his prescribed blood thinners had quietly created a perfect storm. That's what makes this so dangerous. The effects are subtle, gradual. You feel fine until you're not. And once a bleed begins in the brain, it's incredibly hard to stop. Recovery is uncertain. Some lose speech, others mobility. Many never regain their full independence. Here's what I wish more older adults understood. Even natural foods can interact with your prescriptions. Your body at 70 or 80 isn't processing things the way it did at 40. A fruit that might help a younger person recover from soreness could, for someone on blood thinners, push their system into crisis. So, if you love cherries, please eat them mindfully. A few now and then are likely safe, but avoid cherry concentrate, juice, or large daily portions if you're on medication that affects clotting. And always talk to your doctor before making something a regular part of your diet, especially something as medicinally potent as this sweet little fruit. Because what seems small can turn serious when it enters an aging body already working overtime to stay in balance. And when blood becomes too thin, it doesn't just leak, it rushes, and it leaves damage in its wake. If you think this is the end of surprises, think again. There's another fruit, one that's often praised for its antioxidants and served in fancy bowls at senior brunches, that might be carrying one of the heaviest pesticide loads in the grocery store. For older adults, those toxins don't just wash away, they build up, and they may be doing far more harm to your brain than you've been told. Let us take a hard look at strawberries and what's really hiding beneath that red shine. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment 1 below to let me know you're here. Now let's keep going with point number 8. Number 8, strawberries, mold, pesticide, and gout triggers. They look so innocent, bright red, heart-shaped, sweet, with just the right touch of tartness. Strawberries are the very picture of health. You see them on hospital meal trays, blended into brain health smoothies, and served at brunches in retirement communities across America. But for older adults, the truth behind strawberries is far less sweet. In fact, this popular fruit may be silently increasing your risk of stroke, inflammation, and long-term brain toxicity in ways you've likely never been warned about. Let's start with what most people know. Strawberries are one of the most heavily sprayed fruits in American agriculture. Year after year, They top the Environmental Working Group's Dirty Dozen list, a ranking of produce with the highest levels of pesticide residues, even after washing. For seniors whose detox systems slow with age, those chemicals don't leave the body as easily. They build up in tissues, including the brain, where they can disrupt neurological function and weaken blood vessels from the inside out. Pesticides aren't just surface-level irritants. Many of them, especially those used on conventionally grown strawberries, are neurotoxic, meaning they damage brain cells and increase oxidative stress in aging neurons. Over time, this weakens the structural integrity of small blood vessels, particularly in the brain's white matter, the very areas most vulnerable to many strokes, memory loss, and cognitive decline. Once damage sets in, your body responds with inflammation and clot formation, increasing the risk of ischemic events. But the risk doesn't stop at pesticides. Strawberries also contain purines, natural compounds that break down into uric acid in the body. For individuals with a history of gout, kidney disease, or vascular inflammation, which includes a large portion of seniors, elevated uric acid can spark inflammatory responses that trigger narrowing of blood vessels, increased blood pressure, and again, blood clot formation. One patient of mine, Mrs. Elaine Carter, age 80, from Michigan, had always loved strawberries. She picked them fresh every June, froze them for winter smoothies, and ate a handful after dinner because they're healthy. She had mild hypertension, was on a water pill, and occasionally struggled with joint pain. Over time, she began experiencing dizziness in the mornings and joint swelling that didn't go away. One morning, she awoke with numbness in her right hand and slurred speech. A CT scan confirmed a minor ischemic stroke, and her labs showed elevated uric acid, signs of oxidative stress, and low-grade inflammation, a slow-burning process likely fed by years of exposure to pesticide residue and purine overload. Her strawberry habit, meant to protect her health, had become a subtle daily dose of risk. And yes, it formed a clot, one that her body was no longer equipped to clear. Elaine survived, but she now lives with mild memory gaps and nerve sensitivity in her hand. When she told me through tears, I thought I was doing everything right. It reminded me how critical context is in aging nutrition, because even superfoods can turn toxic in the wrong body, at the wrong time, under the wrong conditions. So what should you do if you eat strawberries? Make sure they are organic, every single time. Wash them thoroughly. Don't eat them daily, and never rely on them as your primary source of antioxidants. If you have gout, kidney issues, or are on blood pressure medications, ask your doctor before adding them to your regular diet. And be cautious with frozen strawberries, especially in pre-made smoothies. They often come from bulk batches grown overseas with even less regulation. Because what you don't know can hurt you slowly, quietly, until one day a blood clot steals your words, your balance, or your independence. And if strawberries surprised you, wait until you hear about a fruit that seems exotic, indulgent, and full of health claims, one that's commonly found in heart health supplements but may be quietly disrupting your blood pressure and triggering morning strokes. Let's talk about mango and why this sweet tropical fruit may not belong on your plate. Number 9. Mango. Blood sugar spikes and medication interference. To many older adults, mango feels like a tropical treat, a reward for doing something right. It's soft, fragrant, and naturally sweet. You'll find it sliced in fruit salads, blended into smoothies at senior wellness cafes, or dried and packaged as a healthy snack at the grocery store. The bright orange flesh seems like nature's dessert, and for many, that's exactly how it's marketed. But for seniors, especially those managing heart conditions, blood pressure, or taking multiple medications, mango may be a silent saboteur, one that raises stroke risk in ways few doctors ever mention. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Mango is one of the highest sugar fruits in the American diet. Just 1 cup of ripe mango contains nearly 45 grams of natural sugar, more than the average donut. Unlike complex carbohydrates, the sugar in mango is rapidly absorbed, leading to sudden blood sugar spikes followed by insulin surges and crashes. For seniors with insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, or unstable blood pressure, this roller coaster effect can place enormous strain on blood vessels, especially those in the brain. When blood sugar spikes, the body responds with inflammation. Arteries tighten, circulation slows, and in the delicate vessels that feed the brain, that inflammation can cause tiny cracks in the lining of the vessel walls. Once that happens, the body jumps into repair mode, forming blood clots to seal those cracks. That's a natural defense mechanism, but when it happens in a narrowed or stiffened vessel, it can become the starting point of a stroke. But there's more. Mango doesn't just disrupt blood sugar, it also contains natural compounds that interfere with the way your liver processes medications, especially medications used for heart rhythm, cholesterol, and blood pressure. One of those compounds, mangiferin, has been shown in some studies to slow down the cytochrome P450 enzyme system, the system your liver uses to break down many prescription drugs. When that system slows, medications build up in the body, increasing the risk of overdose, side effects, or dangerous interactions. If you're on medications like amlodipine, metoprolol, or even common statins, this can make your blood pressure dip too low or your heart rhythm fluctuate without warning. Let me share the story of Mr. William Booker, 83, a retired firefighter from Nevada. He was proud of staying active. Daily walks, a balanced diet, always trying heart-healthy options. A few months ago, he started eating dried mango slices every afternoon, thinking it was a smart switch from cookies. He was also taking medications for high blood pressure and atrial fibrillation. After a few weeks, William began noticing episodes of lightheadedness in the mornings. One day, he collapsed while getting out of bed. His wife found him pale, confused, and with a slight droop in the left side of his face. At the hospital, scans confirmed a minor ischemic stroke. Lab tests revealed his blood pressure had dropped too low overnight, and his medication levels were abnormally elevated despite him taking the correct dosage. His doctor and I reviewed everything, and the culprit became clear. The daily dried mango had overloaded his liver, interfering with how his medications were processed. The sugar spikes were compounding the problem, creating the perfect environment for clot formation. William survived, but the stroke affected his coordination and short-term memory. He now lives with daily reminders of how something natural nearly took everything from him. This is why I urge older adults to rethink tropical fruits like mango. The sweetness masks its danger. It's not just the sugar, it's the way it interacts with the aging body, the slowing metabolism, and the complex web of medications that so many seniors rely on. Even a few slices, especially in the dried form, can be enough to tip the body into imbalance. So what's the safe approach? If you truly enjoy mango, eat it in very small portions, no more than a few bites, and only during the day, never before bed. Always pair it with protein or fat to blunt the sugar spike. And if you're on any prescription medication, especially for heart, cholesterol, or blood pressure, talk to your doctor first. Mango may not be right for you anymore, not at this stage of life, because in our later years, our margin for error shrinks. What we once tolerated in our 30s or 40s can now trigger serious consequences, even from a fruit. Now, after hearing about these 9 seemingly healthy fruits, you might be wondering, what can we eat that supports the aging brain, fuels the heart, and still brings joy to our meals? Don't worry. In this final reflection, I'll guide you through real brain-safe foods that protect memory, improve balance, and won't interfere with your medications. You won't need pills, powders, or exotic ingredients. Just whole, simple food and a little wisdom to match. Let's talk about the foods that heal, not harm. After walking through these 9 fruits that may seem healthy, even harmless, but can quietly raise your risk of stroke, you might be feeling confused, perhaps even a little betrayed. You've been told all your life that fruit is nature's medicine, a gift from the earth, something you can always trust. But the truth, especially for those of us over 60, is more complicated and far more important to understand. Aging changes everything. The foods you ate at 30 or 40 no longer land the same way. Your kidneys filter more slowly. Your liver processes medications with less efficiency. Your blood vessels become more fragile, less flexible. And your brain, the most delicate organ of all, becomes increasingly sensitive to fluctuations in blood pressure, blood sugar, and clotting factors. That means every bite matters more now than ever before. Many older adults, with the best intentions, unknowingly build routines that put their brain at risk. A banana with medication, a bowl of grapes as a snack, pineapple after dinner, a tall glass of orange juice in the morning. These habits are so familiar, so ordinary, they don't raise suspicion. But beneath the surface, they can trigger a cascade of changes, silent, invisible, and slow, that increase inflammation, stiffen arteries, thin the blood too much or not enough, and in the worst cases, form blood clots that block oxygen to the brain. As a brain doctor, I've seen the aftermath. Patients who woke up fine and ended their day in the ICU. People who lost their ability to speak, to walk, to recognize their loved ones, all because of a clot the size of a grain of rice in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's heartbreaking. And what makes it worse is that many of these events were preventable, not with more medicine, but with better awareness of how food and age interact. But here's the good news. Not all fruit is dangerous. In fact, some fruits, when chosen wisely and eaten with care, can be powerful allies in protecting your brain, your heart, and your independence. So, what should you reach for? First, berries. Blueberries, raspberries, and blackberries are low in sugar, high in antioxidants, and rich in compounds called polyphenols, which protect blood vessels and reduce inflammation. They don't spike blood sugar, they don't interfere with medications, and they support memory and circulation naturally. Second, green apples, like Granny Smith. Unlike their sugary cousins, these apples have a lower glycemic impact and contain brain-protective flavonoids. Eaten with a small piece of cheese or nut butter, they provide gentle energy without the crash. Third, avocados. Technically a fruit, though many forget that, they're rich in healthy fats that help regulate blood pressure and support nerve function. They contain potassium, yes, but in a form your body absorbs slowly, without the sharp spikes of sweeter fruits. Fourth, lemons and limes. Used not as snacks but as flavor boosters, they support liver detoxification and digestion without delivering sugar or interfering with most medications. A squeeze in water can gently wake up your system and hydrate without harm. Fifth, pomegranates, but only in small amounts. The juice is potent, so if you enjoy it, water it down and limit it to a few ounces. Its antioxidant properties can be helpful, but it must be treated with caution, especially if you're on blood pressure or heart medications. And most of all, timing matters. Eat fruit early in the day, never on an empty stomach, and always paired with a source of protein or healthy fat to slow down absorption and minimize spikes in sugar or drops in blood pressure. Never eat fruit right before bed. Your body is winding down, and that's when blood circulation is at its lowest. A spike in sugar or acid at that hour can tip the balance, and you may not feel the damage until it's too late. Let me be clear. This is not about fear. It's about respect for your age, your body, and the quiet signals it sends. You are not fragile, but you are different now. That doesn't mean you have to stop enjoying life's sweetness. It means you have to enjoy it wisely, with the knowledge and dignity that comes from a lifetime of experience. You've made it to this chapter in life through perseverance, wisdom, and care. Don't let a simple habit, a fruit you never thought twice about, become the silent thief of your health. Every choice, even a snack, can bring you closer to vitality or further into risk. So, read your labels, ask your doctors, think about what's on your plate and what it might do inside your body, not just today, but weeks or months from now. Because the truth is, you are not just eating to live anymore. You are eating to stay sharp, to stay standing, and to stay you. And with the right knowledge, the right fruits, and the right timing, You absolutely can stay wise, stay watchful, and remember, your brain is listening to everything you feed it. Feed it the future you deserve. These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.